Now, this next piece is a bit of a scandal in itself. Actually, it's more of a bit of a scandal for Litzel in itself. So apparently this piece was released and was supposed to be submitted for restrictions. Apparently, it didn't appear in our final submissions, even though it was submitted. And then it was going to get read at another performance at Fresh Blood. But lo and behold, something mysterious happened, and nobody was there to read it. So finally, we love a 3-act structure, and for the final moment in this story, we're finally getting this piece read. So Alice Singh is a 20-year-old Meanjin, Brisbane-based writer and filmmaker with a love of romance and a satisfying ends. She loves exploring human relationships through focus on comedy and larger-than-life situations, as well as holding a love for exploring emotions through prose. Al has written in all forms, currently focused on fiction scripts and developing for screen. And also she powerlifts. It's a really cool fact. I love it. You can find her on Instagram at al_Singh, and when asked what rule does she want to break and why, she answers, theft. It's not a cost of living crisis if you take what you want. I apologize, I stole that from it, but it was a really freaking funny line. Tonight she'll be reading a script called A Silent Understanding. I'll sing, everyone. Wait.
Just quickly, because this was written for restrictions, there was a restriction on that I put on myself when writing it. Even though it's a script, there's no spoken or synced dialogue. So all the dialogue is done through a different medium. A Silent Understanding. Interior, library booth, afternoon. Anjali sits in the brightly coloured booth, focused on the screen in front of her wearing earphones. She is concentrating heavily on whatever is on the screen, notebook open in front of her. She writes notes occasionally, fidgeting with her pencil nervously. 2 different coloured blinking cursors stare at her from a mostly empty shared document. Callum sits across from her, writing his own notes. He also has headphones on and seems less anxious about whatever he is working on. The two look like they've been sitting in the same space for a long time. There isn't anyone else around. Callum looks up from his work, noticing Anjali's increasing worry. He reaches for his phone and stops, thinking for a moment before pulling something out on his laptop. On the project Google Doc, typed. Callum, what's wrong? He looks over his laptop to meet an annoyed Anjali's eyes. She stares at him before deleting the message and returning to her work. Callum shakes his head and bears down, leaning back in his seat. On the project Google Doc, typed. Callum, what's wrong? Callum, what's wrong? Callum, what's wrong? Callum is smiling softly by the time he annoys Anjali enough to look at him, raising his eyebrows at her. Anjali rolls her eyes, her typing punchy and short. On the project Google Doc, typed. Anjali, stressed. Anjali gives Callum a pointed look before going back to her notes. On the Google Doc, typed. Callum, take a break. Anjali stares at him, annoyed. She opens her mouth, huffing in annoyance before typing again. On the project Google Doc. Anjali, too busy. The two have an unspoken conversation over the top of their laptops, arguing back and forth without any words, but instead through looks and raised eyebrows. When Callum clearly doesn't back off, Anjali just closes the document tab. She makes a face at him, before going back to her work. Callum stands up and shakes his head softly as he walks away, leaving all of their belongings on the table. Interior, library booth, late afternoon. Callum returns with a small paper bag. It feels like he's gone for seconds, but in reality it was at least 15 minutes. The sound of frantic typing can be heard as he returns to the table, Anjali still working away. Callum opens the bag and pushes food towards Anjali. Anjali doesn't even look up from her laptop, headphones blocking out sound. He pokes her, ending a glare. Anjali looks down at the soft bun in front of her and tries to suppress a smile. Anjali opens their shared document and types something, as Callum turns his laptop back on, eating his own sandwich. On the project Google Doc, typed, Anjali, you remembered. Anjali smiles as she takes a bite, fingers leaving her laptop for the first time all day. Callum shakes his head, laughing silently. On the project Google Doc, typed, Callum, like I could ever forget anything about you. Anjali's cursor blinks on the white page, letters typed out before being quickly erased. A few long moments pass. The typing stopping as she finishes her food. On the project Google Doc, typed, Anjali, I'm about 10% away from failing this semester. This assignment, it's everything for me. Anjali deletes the message as soon as she's seen Callum has read it, refusing to meet his eye. The two cursors blink on the screen. On the project Google Doc, typed, Callum, I won't let that happen. He erases his message before rewriting it with one clear vision. He's eye to eye with Anjali as soon as the message is sent, sincerity clear in his features. On the project Google Doc, typed, Callum, we won't let that happen. Anjali smiles and leans back in her seat, closing her eyes for the first time all day. She mouths a thank you at Callum and breathes deeply. Callum looks at her for a moment, a fond smile appearing as he does, before resuming his work with an earnestness he did not have before. Sounds of typing fill the empty library once more, but for the first time all day, the library is enveloped in a calmness. In a calmness it was not before.